Hey guys, can you guess what I'm filming today? So today I am actually reviewing the #1 show that is watched on Netflix, which I'm sure you can guess, is Tiger King. Woo! So, the show is basically mainly around a guy named Joe Exotic, and we will get more into details after you subscribe and like this channel. You should also turn on the notification bell so you can get notifications of any time I post. Alright guys, so this video is probably actually going to be a really long video, so I suggest you get a snack, maybe a drink. I have mine, a beautiful Red Bull. If you know me, you know I'm obsessed with Red Bull. But this show, like I said before, is basically around Joe Exotic. Now, I don't know how any of us didn't know about this guy, Joe Exotic, because he is wild. So before I even get started, I'm just going to let you guys know that this is definitely going to have a lot of spoilers in it, mainly because the show is kind of a documentary, and I can't really go into detail about the show unless there's spoilers. So if you don't want to watch any spoilers, I suggest you don't watch this. But if you've seen it or you want to see it and you kind of just don't care about spoilers, then I suggest you watch it. But anyway, like I was saying, this show is basically around a guy named Joe Exotic. He is wild. He is a gay guy. He's very openly gay. He also, is just, very charismatic and, just, I don't know, he's just crazy. He owns, this place called, oh yeah, it's the Great Wynwood Exotic Animal Park, and he pretty much is known for having tigers and lions and bears. Oh my. He also has wolves, and he is pretty much like owns all these animals and has, I hate to say it, but it's pretty much like a zoo. And he's really known for being one of the biggest breeders of tigers in America, which we both know, we all know that breeding isn't great, and this show pretty much shows him, in his whole entire life of this breeding. He, they kind of show in this thing, he does love his animals, but at the same time, he's breeding them, so that's not cool. So, like I said, he owns this exotic preserve, and he's not the only one who does. There's two others as well. There's Carol Baskin, who is based out of Tampa, Florida. She owns Big Cats Rescue, and then you have Doc Antle, who is based out of he's Myrtle Beach, and so pretty much Doc Antle is this guy that he doesn't really have any type of Joe Exotic doesn't really have this rivalry against. He kind of is the guy that Joe Exotic looks up to when it comes to a rescue. We're gonna go to Doc Antle because he is another one. Let me just say this: all of them are crazy, all of them. So Doc Antle is this guy. He owns this rescue, which is, like I said, based out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and he, from what you see in the documentary, he is also kind of charismatic, but he's more suave, as you can say, and he ends up having I think they said 3 wives. Yeah, 3 wives, 3 girlfriends, whatever you want to call them. And he's also a very interesting character. But in the show, it's known that they call him, I can't think of what they actually call him, But they pretty much call him like a god. And a lot of people refer his rescue as like almost a cult. You know, they show this girl talking about how he's kind of like one of these people that makes you like want to stay, but also like feel like you're stuck. So, like I said, there's 3 of them: Doc Ansel, Carole Baskin, and then Joe Exotic. Well, in the show, it shows this huge rivalry that Joe Exotic has with Carole Baskin, right? And Carole Baskin, like I said, is the owner of Big Cat's Rescue in Tampa, Florida. I don't know, when I was watching this, I got like real weird, creepy vibes from her. Which I probably shouldn't say, but I just did. But she is known for, you know, really, really loving her animals, and but she also is as well a breeder. But she, her and Joe have this like really, really crazy rivalry, right? And it's just, I don't know, like pretty much like she. Alright, so in the show, it shows that pretty much that she is alleged for possibly doing harm to her husband, her ex-husband, Don Lewis. But it caused kind of like an uproar for Joe Exotic to use against her and cause a bigger rivalry between them. And she puts like all this false information out about, you know, how she possibly hurt her ex-husband, and it causes like them to have a huge issue with each other. So throughout the whole thing, you pretty much see them like battling it out. So pretty much Carole Baskin files a lawsuit against Joe Exotic because of the simple fact that he actually stole her trademarks for Big Cat Rescue, and she probably actually set all of this up probably at the worst time in Joe Exotic's life, because Joe Exotic was in a throuple with this guy John and this guy Travis, and at the time that she actually like did the lawsuit in this documentary, you see that Travis had actually accidentally killed himself, which I'm sure anyone like who's going through that is gonna be like in a bad place. So when the lawsuit came, it pretty much like was almost like a stab. But the reason that the reason that Joe actually stole the property, stole the trademark, is because she sent out a protest campaign against his rescue. Back to like the whole Travis and John situation and the throuple, before I get deep into the whole lawsuit and everything. John and Travis. Okay, so John, the whole time in the show, by the way, he's wearing like no shirt. And the reason for that is he like supposedly takes pride in like all his tattoos and everything, which, you know what? Power to you, because I have a lot of tattoos and I take a lot of pride in my tattoos, so I feel you. But he was pretty much like a straight guy who ended up being with Joe Exotic because allegedly he would give him like crystal meth, so that he like kind of like could handle the whole situation of being married to a man. Actually, technically he was married to 2. And then you have Travis, who also was in the same situation. Like, he was a straight guy, and he ended up being with Joe Exotic for almost the same exact reason. Like, he ended up being with him because of the simple fact that he was kind of giving them both crystal meth, and they were obviously wanted to survive off of it. But they did work around the rescue as well and helped him out with that. And I just find it really interesting that people would change their sexuality over a drug. But I guess that's just the lifestyle of being an addict, right? Like, when you want something and you can get it, you're going to kind of do anything to be able to have it. But like I said, sadly, so before Travis accidentally ended up killing himself, John had actually left Joe for Joe's secretary, and because they had been sleeping with each other the whole time that Joe and John were married. Which no one was really surprised about, because everyone, like I said, knew that John and Travis were pretty much straight. So, John actually, like, leaving Joe was kind of a big hit for Joe, but I think the bigger hit for Joe was actually Travis accidentally killing himself. It definitely hit him hard, like you see in the whole thing. Like, he's really upset, and he's like really taking it really difficulty. But not too long after that, you actually you see him meet this guy Dylan, which I gotta say, Dylan was not a bad looking guy. Like, Dylan was a really good looking kid. Okay, I shouldn't call him a kid because he's probably my age, but he's a good looking cat. Like, cat, get it? Big cat. And he ends up getting remarried to this guy, Dylan. So after Joe remarries Dylan, he ends up actually running for president in 2016 as an independent, and I think libertarian. And it's pretty funny because I actually remember that some people were talking about him. I didn't know who he was, but people were actually talking about him and talking about actually voting for him. And then when that campaign failed, he actually ran for governor, governor of Oklahoma. So we can definitely talk about the fact that he did not win the presidential and governor campaigns, but he did run, and I thought it was actually pretty interesting because when you see in the show, like, it shows like the things that he actually is for, and I wasn't against all of them. Oh, and by the way, I just have to say, like, the way these people live, you wonder, like, what country are these people from? Like, are you from Costa Rica? Are you from Colombia? Maybe you're from, like, a European country. I don't know. No, you're just from Oklahoma and Florida. Which, are we really surprised with Florida? But they literally just have machine guns and random pistols. And, you see Joe walking into one of the stores, and they're like, oh, do you need explosives today? Where is that okay? But then you get, like, into the lawsuit portion of Carol and Joe, which, like I said, Carol files a lawsuit against Joe because he takes her trademark for Big Cat Rescue. And this lawsuit ends up causing, like, Joe to go pretty much bankrupt. And it doesn't just hurt him, but it hurts a lot of people in his life. Like, it ends up hurting, like, his animals, because at this point they can't afford to buy food for the animals, even though in one of the parts it shows you that they actually get expired meat from Walmart, which is repulsive. But they get expired meat from Walmart, and a lot of the workers, because they can't afford anything else, they actually tend to have first dibs on the food, or before like they give it to the animals, which is gross. And but that's because most of Joe's workers are retired, like, you know, felons or people who just didn't have it good and can't afford that stuff. But Carol Baskin and her new husband, Harold, they actually, Howard, sorry. But her new husband, Howard, they actually filed a lawsuit against her and, against Joe, Jesus. And like I said, it tends to hurt a lot of people in Joe's life. It ends up hurting his animals, it ends up hurting his employees, and it ends up actually hurting his parents. His parents helped him a lot with the lawsuit, and it ended up making his parents go bankrupt. And he ended up losing like thousands of dollars worth of equipment in his like rescue, and he also ended up like losing ways of feeding his animals, which just, to me, like, if you care about animals as much as Carol Baskin says she does, like, wouldn't you really be thinking about the fact that, you know, you're hurting his animals? But I think she's more just wants to take the rescue away from him. But Joe's not going to let that happen. Anyway, in the middle of this, with their lawsuit, Joe ends up finding this guy, Jeff Lowe. Well, Jeff Lowe is this guy who comes off like he is an extremely wealthy businessman. And you'll understand why later I say it comes off. And he ends up, he's kind of like this playboy-esque type guy. He goes to Vegas a lot. So Jeff Lowe actually, like, pretty much has this huge home and all these nice cars. He has a Ferrari, which is so cool. And Joe ends up meeting him and is like taken back by this guy and wants to be just like him. Well, the thing is, Jeff is actually pretty much a scam artist. He rents like all of his property. He doesn't actually own it, so it's kind of like to show off a little bit. And he like leases his Ferrari or whatever. And Joe doesn't find that out until later, though, where he already has kind of done business with this guy. And once he puts the money into the rescue, pretty much everything goes downhill from there. And it's like Jeff is trying to take over the rescue when we know that it is Joe's. But it was all he could do because he didn't have any more money because of Carol suing him. But it comes out later that Jeff actually was in prison for strangling his wife, his first wife. And kind of had like an anger issue. He tries to pretty much like take over the zoo and do all this different stuff, and he gets like really like demanding and controlling, which, I mean, I understand his money is on the line in this place, but at the same time, Joe's face is everywhere, so, and it's technically still his. I guess it's not, right? I don't know, I just tend to like, I felt bad at first for Joe until you find out, partially through, that Joe is actually taking money from the rescue and using it for his campaign, his governor campaign. And that money that is in the zoo is Jeff Lowe's. And he becomes like a really nasty person towards Joe when he finds out. And he's actually, in the show, Jeff is, I forget where he was, but this woman and him are talking, and the woman pretty much brings up the fact that Joe is being looked into by federal agents. And Jeff is like, well, you know, I used to have a felony, so I can't be tied up into that mess. Jeff is losing his on Joe. And he pretty much tells him, if you ever come back onto the rescue grounds, I will actually kill you. At this point, Joe is fleeing the farm because he's scared, which I don't blame him. I would be scared too. Taking tigers and lions with him that costs like thousands and thousands of dollars. He's shipping them out to various areas of the country, like California. Some of these tigers actually cost around like $4,000, $8,000, $10,000, and I was like, geez. So when he does leave, he burns all the records of the embezzlement and all the money that he took from the rescue, and burns it. Burns everything. He burns like all the laptops, burns all the paperwork, he burns everything before he goes, and he gets a burner phone. He gets nothing. Nothing is traceable back to him. Like you cannot find him at all. He tells all his workers, like when people ask like where I've gone, tell them I retired. So it shows him with Dylan in some unlocated destination. Still to this day, no one knows where he was. And he's telling people, like, you know, Jeff Lowe, he's a dangerous man. Like, watch yourself, watch your back with him. He's not a good man. And a lot of, at this point, like, Joe's workers are like, I don't know, like, I'm concerned about him. Like, that's not like him to just up and leave, like, something that he's loved and built, which, like, Joe built this place based around the fact that his brother passed away in a car accident. And it's just, like, really, really disheartening and, like, really upsetting. But, I mean, at the same time, I guess you can't breed animals anymore, right? But then when you get to the next episode, after you find all that out and that he leaves, you find out that he had talked multiple times to multiple people, that he actually was looking to hire people to murder Carol Baskins. And, you know, a lot of his workers are like, yeah, I mean, we talked about it all the time. We joked about it. Like, I didn't think anything serious about it, but he was really serious about it. And the worst part is, Jeff Lowe's is the one that's pretty much showing him, like, how it could be done. He brings up this Google Earth thing that shows, like, you know, Carol Baskin, like, rides this bicycle trail almost every single day where she's alone and no one's around and no one can see her. And Jeff Lowe's is literally showing him and Travis was still alive at this time, where they could sit to kill her. How is that okay? So, like I said, Jeff was actually helping Joe figure out, like, ways to kill Carol Baskin. I just don't understand how, like, that's okay. But anyway, you find out later on that Jeff is actually helping federal agents find Joe Exotic. And he, like, had an idea when he was kicking Joe off the farm that Joe actually, the reason that they were, like, the federal agents were looking into him was for other reasons than the embezzlement. I just think that helped him, you know what I mean? Like, be able to help them find him faster. But yeah, like, so he actually, Jeff actually ends up helping the federal agents finding Joe, and Joe gets arrested for, I think it was 17 counts, like 17 different counts. I think it was like 17 counts for animal abuse, and then 2 counts of murder to hire for Carol Baskins. And Joe Exotic is now in prison. So, like I said before, this show is wild. But Carol Baskins, from that whole trial that pretty much made all of this come out, she ended up like only getting, I think, like $1 million from that trial. So, girl, was it worth it? You even end up getting the rescue. You even end up getting his cats. So I don't understand what you wanted. Joe Exotic, man, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? Like, it breaks my heart, because as much as I don't agree with animal abuse, I did like really end up falling in love with Joe, but it's fine. But yeah, this show ended up taking the most wildest turn, and I'm still kind of like in shock at the fact that I have never heard of this man before this show came out. But yeah, crazy. Oh, I'm sure you noticed I also did my lashes off of camera, and they are called Lengthy by Anastasiabeverlyhills. Sorry, I cannot speak while doing my lips, so I did my lips off camera, which your girl had a lip today. I'm going to just set my face with some Farsali setting spray. But yeah, so again, to just wrap all of this up, I ended up really falling in love with this show. It took the wildest spin I could ever imagine, which I'm sure is why it's #1 on Netflix for everyone to watch. I definitely suggest it if you haven't watched it yet, and if you have watched it, I would watch it again, because when I watched this like 3 times, and each time I watched it, I caught on to something new each time, and I was like, wait, how did I miss that? But I guess that's just, sometimes you do. But yeah, this is the final look. Again, we're going to take my hair down, which I'm sure you guys are laughing at the fact that I am wearing a wig with bangs. I had to, you know, represent my Joe Exotic look. But thank you guys again for joining me during this journey of talking about Tiger King. Joe, if you ever watch this, I love you, and I know I'm not your type, but I do have 3 brothers. So please again like and subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell so you can keep updated with any time that I put out a new video. And have a nice night. Bye.